surgical drapes. Seems simple, right? Just a bit of fabric, in the operating room. But get this. By 2025, the global market for these is set to hit something like USD 3.74 billion. A massive number.
Yeah, it really is. That figure alone tells you these aren't just like accessories, they're critical.
Absolutely critical. They maintain that sterile field, right?
Yeah.
Prevent contamination, fight those hospital-acquired infections. Basically crucial for patient safety.
Exactly. We often just, overlook these kinds of essential supplies. But think about surgery. That barrier is everything. It's not just fabric. It's engineered material for a specific job.
And to really get our heads around this surprisingly large market, we've been digging into excerpts from the 2025 Global Surgical Drapes Market report.
Right. It's our guide, basically.
Yeah, it lays out the market size, forecasts, regional stuff, trends, everything. So our mission today is to pull out the most important bits, the surprising insights from this report, give you a clear picture of surgical drapes now and where things are heading.
Okay, so where do we start with a market that big?
Well, that first number, the $3.74 billion for 2025.
That's just the kickoff point. The report shows a pretty strong upward trend. It's anticipating the market reaching USD 6.33 billion by 2033.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, about 6.8% starting from 2025. And what's driving that is really interesting.
Right. A steady growth like that, it doesn't just happen. What's behind it?
Well, primarily, it's just the sheer increase in surgical procedures happening globally.
Okay.
And if you dig into why there are more surgeries, it links back to, a couple of big global health trends. You got the rise in chronic diseases and also the fact that, people are generally living longer.
Ah, okay. So aging populations, more chronic conditions.
Exactly. Both often lead to needing surgery down the line.
So it's a direct link, really. More health issues mean more operations, which means more need for all the gear, including these drapes. Makes sense. Now, geographically, where's the action concentrated? I had some ideas, but the report's breakdown was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, it definitely gives you some perspective. Right now, North America has the biggest piece of the pie. Over 40% of the market in 2025. That's about USD 1.38 billion.
40%, wow.
And it's not just sitting still. It's projected to grow steadily, around 5.6% CAGR. The U.S. alone makes up a huge chunk of that, almost USD 1.1 billion in 2025.
That's a commanding lead for North America, then. What about Europe, usually a big player in medical tech?
Oh, absolutely. Europe's a strong number two. They hold over 30% of the market, which is roughly USD 1.08 billion for 2025. And interestingly, a very similar growth projection, also 5.6% annually.
Huh. Same growth rate.
Yeah. And if you look at specific countries, the UK is estimated around USD 182 million. Germany is about USD 215 million just for 2025. So substantial markets within Europe itself.
Okay, so the established markets are holding strong, but you mentioned eye-opening. The report also highlighted some really fast growth elsewhere, didn't it? Asia Pacific.
That's where things get really dynamic. Asia Pacific, or APAC, is forecast to grow at an impressive CAGR of 9.6%. That's quite a bit faster than North America or Europe.
9.6%.
Wow. Yeah, in 2025, the APAC market is around $898 million, but that's expected to really surge. India, specifically, is projected to have this exceptionally high growth rate, like 11.5% a year.
11.5%.
I know, right? And China's a huge factor, too. Their 2025 market is about USD 377 million, and that growth is really fueled by, big investments in healthcare infrastructure and more focus on infection control.
That rapid growth in APAC makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Large populations, more focus on healthcare access. What about the other regions mentioned? South America, Middle East, Africa. What's their part in this?
They're smaller markets currently, but still showing consistent growth. South America is projected around 7.1% annually, with a 2025 market size of about 142 million. The Middle East, similar growth, 7.3%, and about 150 million in 2025. And Africa, while it's the smallest right now at roughly 82 million, is still expected to grow at a solid 6.5% per year. So, while North America and Europe lead for now, APAC is definitely the one to watch for rapid expansion.
Okay, great overview of the size and geography. Let's get into the why, the drivers. We mentioned more surgeries, but the report stressed other things too. Infection control seemed huge.
Absolutely critical. The report really hammers home the focus on preventing infections patients get in the hospital. HAIs, hospital-acquired infections.
Yeah, right.
Facilities are under pressure, from regulators, from patient groups to cut these down. They impact patients badly, and they cost a fortune. So this awareness, these stricter hygiene rules, they directly boost demand for good quality drapes, especially the disposable ones.
Yeah, that seems logical. A fresh drape feels safer than a reused one, inherently. And this focus on infection control, that probably explains why certain types of drapes are getting more popular.
Precisely. The report shows a clear rise in demand for both antimicrobial and disposable drapes. Putting antimicrobial stuff in the fabric adds another layer of protection.
Okay.
Combine that with the guaranteed sterility and, frankly, the convenience of single-use drapes. It's a powerful mix driving a lot of the market growth.
But hang on, all these disposables, what about the environment? Is anyone pushing back or looking at greener options?
That's a really important point. And yes, the report does touch on the environmental side. There's definitely a growing interest in sustainable and eco-friendly drapes.
Good.
Yeah, it's driven by environmental awareness and healthcare, consciousness about all the waste. So we are seeing innovation in things like biodegradable materials and also improvements in reusable drapes, trying to find that balance between sterility and responsibility.
It's good to hear that's part of the conversation. Okay, the report also slices the market up differently by drape type, usability, material, end user. What jumped out from that segmentation?
Yeah, the segmentation gives some good clues about where the specific demand is. So looking at type, basic surgical sheets are dominant right now. Probably because they're so versatile, you can use them for lots of different procedures.
Makes sense.
But what's really telling is that laparoscopy drapes are the fastest growing segment.
Ah, okay.
Which lines up perfectly with the rise of minimally invasive surgery, right?
Exactly. Less invasive techniques still need total sterility, so you need specialized drapes for those keyhole procedures. Yeah, that fits. What about usability? Disposable versus reusable. You mentioned disposables are getting popular?
Yes, and the data backs that up strongly. The disposable segment just dominates the market by far, and it's also growing the fastest.
Okay.
The reasons are pretty clear.
Gooder.
Better infection control, easier workflow for staff, and they meet those stricter hygiene rules. Reusables are still there, especially with the sustainability push, but disposables just win out on safety and convenience for most users right now.
Got it. And the materials, what are these drapes actually made of?
Mostly non-woven fabrics. They have the biggest market share, and they're also the fastest growing material type.
Non-woven. What does that mean exactly?
So non-wovens, they're made by bonding fibers together, not weaving them like traditional cloth. This process lets manufacturers create fabrics with specific properties, like really good barrier strength, fluid resistance, and they're pretty cost-effective too. Ideal for single-use medical stuff.
Ah, okay. Strong protection, practical, cost-effective. Got it. And finally, who's buying all these? Hospitals must be the main customer.
You got it. Hospitals are the biggest end-user segment, easily.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer number of surgeries they do.
Right.
But interestingly, the report also highlights ambulatory surgical centers, ASCs, as a rapidly growing segment.
Oh, interesting. The outpatient centers.
Yeah, it reflects that bigger trend of shifting more procedures out of the main hospital setting.
That makes sense. That shift impacting drape demand, too. Now, this 2025 report, it had a section analyzing the impact of Trump's tariff war, specifically mentioning Liberation Day tariffs in 2025. How can global trade stuff like that actually affect surgical drapes? Seems a bit disconnected.
Well, it shows how interconnected everything is, doesn't it? These Liberation Day tariffs from 2025 were pretty wide-ranging. Duties from 10% up to like 145%, depending on the country and the sector. Electronics was mentioned specifically.
Right.
That sector got hit hard by trade tensions, especially U.S.-China, with some Chinese electronics facing those really high tariffs.
Okay, but electronic surgical drapes, what's the link?
It's more indirect. Drapes aren't electronics, obviously. But the electronics industry supplies components used across manufacturing, maybe components used in making the drapes, or even in the machinery for packaging them.
Ah, okay, like ripple effects.
Exactly. So higher costs or supply chain problems in electronics could trickle down, potentially raising the cost of making or distributing drapes. The report also mentioned that companies everywhere were looking again at their suppliers because of the tariffs. That kind of reshuffling could also impact costs in the drape market.
So yeah, a ripple effect through global supply chains. Even something like a drape isn't immune to big international trade shifts.
Fascinating. Who are the big companies in this market then? Sounds competitive.
Oh, it is. Highly competitive. The top companies are really focused on innovation, better antimicrobial features, better fluid resistance, meeting all the regulations. The report lists names you'd expect: 3M, Cardinal Health, Milne-like Healthcare, Steris, Medline Industries.
Household names in healthcare, yeah.
And they're not just standing still, are they? The report mentions some recent moves.
That's right, they're active. For instance, Cardinal Health opened a new distribution center in Toronto in May 2023 and had plans for another big one in Ohio back in March 2022, investing in their logistics. And Medline started a big collaboration with Mount Sinai Health System in March 2023, becoming their main supplier for lots of things, including drapes. So yeah, constant strategic moves, partnerships, investments to stay ahead.
Okay, so let's try and tie this together, bringing back the main regional points. Who's got the biggest share now, and who's growing fastest? Just to recap.
Sure. So as of 2025, North America has the biggest market share. That's largely down to their, advanced healthcare system and strict infection control rules.
Okay, leader for now.
But Asia Pacific is projected to have the highest growth rate, that high CAGR we talked about, in the coming years. That rapid growth is fueled by more healthcare investment, more surgeries, and just a growing focus on infection prevention across the whole APAC region.
This has been, well, genuinely fascinating, taking a deep dive into something most of us probably never think twice about. So, wrapping up, what are the big takeaways that stand out for you from this report?
I think there are a few key things. First, just the sheer size and the expected growth. It shows how fundamental these seemingly simple items are in healthcare.
Second, those clear trends disposables, non-wovens, driven hard by infection control concerns. That's really shaping the industry. Third, the regional differences are significant, showing diverse priorities and growth, with APAC being, a real hotspot for future potential.
Right.
And finally, how even this specialized market isn't isolated. It's affected by bigger global forces, like those trade policies we discussed.
That's a great summary, and it really makes you pause, doesn't it? Think about how something like a surgical drape fits into this massive global industry, influenced by everything from basic health needs and material science to, unpredictable global trade. Makes you wonder, what other ordinary bits of healthcare have this huge economic impact and affect our lives so much? Definitely food for thought. Thanks for exploring this with me.
My pleasure. It's always interesting to uncover the complexity behind everyday things.